To Bourbon!
Miniyamba saba ye konolelo. Saba miniyamba saba ye konolelo. Saba miniyamba. Miniyamba tumana lambelo. Saba miniyamba ye konolelo. Saba miniyamba.
I was born in the land of a great ancestral savannas, Africa, a land of a great Mandingo warrior, Kunta Kinte. For I will not dash away my culture to the vultures, my black race. I will embrace my black face. I will not disgrace, for I am an African king. My name is Kunta Kinte, but the masters want it to be Toby. That can be. Because culture, my pride, culture, my heritage, home, my heart is Africa. My skin is glorious. The dark color is a symbol of strength. So do not mistake it for weakness. For I know my land. I live in a land of culture. With a bright future of great sacrifice of humanity, compassion of great composure. Fellow Gambians, people of Africa, people of the world, my dream is of a place and a time when the Gambia will once again be seen as the last hope for humanity. And it is our duty as both Gambians and global youths to embrace our culture. Let's go back to the roots of our own self. Let's not touch her, but not show. Let's not disgrace, but embrace. Let's come together and smile as we are the smiling coast of Africa. To the Gambia, our homeland. Thank you all.
Please. Silence. This is my daily life. Since in 1996, I've been responsible of the history of the motherland with my brothers. So that is why I do it every day, but today is quite a different day. So like I mentioned, when the island was discovered, then in 1651, this fort was built by the servants of the Duke of Courland. And like I said, that Courland today is modern Latvia. So this house that you see here, this was a gunpowder store. And if you can imagine, an ordinary gunpowder store is quite bigger than where they kept human beings. Because in those days, they were not considered human, but just like livestock and animals. So that was the gunpowder store for their cannons and single barrel guns. And this used to be an oven. They feed the slaves with corn or flour. So that corn and flour is imported to the island. So they blanch their boats when they are coming. They make it like in the form of porridge. But the slavers themselves, the slave masters, this is where they bake bread for themselves. So some says it's because of this the powder magazine was exploded, but some says it's because of the heat. Can we have our that diaspora brother here, please? Now this one, I will say due respect, especially to the women, because these are the slave houses. One for women and children, one for the men. So they separate them. So the slavers will come, they choose one of their choices, and with due respect, they rape them. And after raping them, Africans in those days were very proud of themselves. So when they are raped, they're very annoying. So they cause the worst form of suicide by hitting their heads on the wall. This is real. This is very real, you know. So basically, they cause the worst system of suicide by hitting their heads on the wall until they take their own lives because they don't want to be raped. Because we Africans those days are different. We are very proud of ourselves. So that's why they kept women and children. The room has no window. It's just a small door that they will bring them in. By then the island was bigger. The size of the island today is twice into the original size before. And this is covered with concrete on the roof. And on the roof they have what we call the water cistern. That is the water storage facility. So that's the slave houses. And there's quite few others as well. And the small, like a hole, that's the underground slave dungeon. And then the dungeon is where they put Kunta Kinte for 15 days. And this is where the most powerful slaves were kept. Another tree. 35 of them. If one died, another 3 or 4 will die because of the smell of the dead one. So that became sickness to the rest of the slaves. So this was the days of the Stone Age. And this is similar to the days of the Holocaust, the Nazis. If you go to Sobibor in Poland, more than 6 million Jews also died in the concentration camps. Similar crimes like, leaving the dead to die naturally and the others get sick and die happen. So that's why we have the underground dungeon here. Okay? Good. So now this is where they brine our ancestors like cartons. Very important for the students. Very important. This is where they brine our ancestors like cattle. Some of you, if you visit the museum, especially the press, if you have time, you go to the museum, there is an area in the museum that you will see the label, instruments of torture. So those instruments of torture, there is an instrument there called the brining iron. So that is where they brine our ancestors, just like cattle. They put this iron in the fire, make it hot, and they put marks on their soldiers in order to be able to identify them. So that is normally done here on the slave yard. So this is the slave yard. This is where they brine them. If you go to high school and you study history, there is a segment in the history of slavery where you will come across the valids and the unvalid slaves. Some of you that have been to high school, you will remember. There is a book, History of West Africa, from AD 1000 to 1800. If you go in that book, you will come across the valids and the invalid slaves. So the valid slaves are the ones, they check their body. The women, they count their tits and they look at the size of your breast, excuse me. And those are the most expensive slaves. Some are sold for 19 pounds per head. Some are sold for 45 pounds, which is a lot of money in those days. So that is the slave yard on the Fort James Island. The slave yard on the Kunta Kinteh Island is where they brine the slaves. If you go in the museum, you will see the instruments of torture. There they have the branding iron. It's having the company's name. like in 17 or 1672, when the British changed the name of this island to Fort James Island, there was a company called the Royal African Adventurers. So that's a ship. Like the Lord Laguna, with Captain David Thompson, who took Kunta Kinte from this island on July 5th. That's why Lamin Jatta feel it befitting to organize the July 5th. That idea from Lamin is one of the most important things that Lamin Jatta has done in his life, to bring back Kunta Kinte alive. That's what Lamin has done, definitely. So that's why I'm very emotional today. So they will be blinded. The weak ones is like you get a bag of tomatoes, you pick the rotten ones and they throw them into the sea. The best is the ones they transport. So that is done here on the slave yard. The old landing place over there, that is where it was a concrete harbor, like the jetty we just landed with the boats. That is just like maybe 30-35 years. But the original one was where we have the old landing place. I have the map of the island in my head, and I will never get mistake because I did it for 12 years. So the old landing place was there. That's where the ships will come, get the slaves, and start transporting them. And this is the VIP of the island. Let's call it the VIP.
VIP.
Yes. Now, this part of the island is the governor's residence. This is where the governor lives. We have the governor.
Silence, please.
We have the governor. We have the councillors' room. The councillors are the artisans, or they call them the writers. They register the slaves. Some of you, if you visited the museum, you will see the slave register. But the one we just had is the liberated slave register. That's the one we had in the museum presently. So this is like the administrative block on the island. We are standing in the court, but in this court, the slaves are always guilty because they have no right or freedom. So they decide punishments for them here while they are waiting for shipment. The long room, that was the dining room for the governor. They call it the long room. That was the dining room. Now, if you look at the structure, fire stones, they blanch their boats when they are coming over. The fire stones, those days they bring them or brought them. But some of them are volcanic stones, either from eastern part of Africa. We don't have stones in Gambia. They use the cells of the oyster, burn it into powder. They use as seed. So that's why it's over 400 years and still the structure. But we secure fund from the World Bank. And the National Center for Arts and Culture will be preserving. So that's why the Kunta Kinteh Foundation feel it befitting to sign an MOU with the National Center for Arts and Culture. So we're all going to be part of that program. So very soon, the island, they will start protecting it against the sea or the river. Okay? Unfortunately, the prince died. So these 170 Negroes were sent to the New World. They make an experiment. They realize that Africans, because of their skin, they work from morning to evening with little food and water, and they survive. And then also, they realize that the Africans easily get adopted to the tropical climate system in America. So, and then we are used to rice cultivation, especially the Senegambian slaves. That's why we are the most expensive slaves. So basically, that was how the idea of slavery came. And the white man enslaved us. But they get rid of us. They get rid of us when they realize that the Industrial Revolution came. That is the economic revolution. When it came, they realized that the work that machine can do in 2 minutes, human beings, it takes us for 1 month, and they get rid of us. They said we are okay. After maltreating us, more than 20 million Africans were sick, and over 6 million died in these rivers. That is the Middle Passage, on the mainland at San Domingo. So it was never on the free will of the white people to bring slavery to an end, but it's because of the Industrial Revolution. That is one of the reasons why it decided to come to an end. So on that note,
This is a big day. I'm very touched today. I'm very honored. I'm very excited, finally, because of receiving all these things. And we try to make this thing possible. So on that note, I thank you so much. We'll have a 5-minute short conducted tour by myself around the island. Just 5 minutes. Okay?
Yes.
But most importantly, this is about the history of the island. This is about, before we go on the conducted tour, we have the like this. Okay?
Exactly. In Africa. Africa was born in we.
Even though we may have been born in Jamaica or the Caribbean, it was born in us. We give thanks for our great ancestors like Kunta Kinte, because when we were in England and we saw roots, it made us understand a lot of things. We were told that we were slaves, and we were only slaves. Kunta Kinte reminded us that we were a sovereign people. Kunta Kinte reminded us before there was any religion, whether it's Christianity or Islam, there was African spirituality, which gave praises and showed us about balance and order. We give thanks for grand ancestors like Kunta Kinte who showed us how to resist the oppressor, how to resist the white man. But meanwhile, while we resist, we had to put our development systems in place. Resistance alone couldn't be enough. This is why we are here today, to the spirit, to the energy, the vibration of our ancestors. We ask our ancestors to continually guiding us on our goings out and our comings in, tuning us into the right frequency, the right energy, the right vibration. As a people, we are first a spiritual people before we become physical, before we become human. Let us not get it mixed up. As a people, integrity, righteousness has always been our foundation. Our ancestors remind us, let our foundation be morality, integrity, honesty, balance and order. Wipe out corruption, wipe out wickedness. Don't be like the white man and the slave masters. We are greater than that. We are a people of antiquity. That means when there was no Europe, no France, no white man, there was I and I. Africa is the mother and the father of civilization. Move into the African center, because it is the center of the world. So world history is important, so that you know your place in it. Because when you have a knowledge of world history, you get to realize that you were the first. Doesn't mean you're the best, but you were here first. So we move into the African center. We take a good look at our history. But the truth is what will set us free. But we first must research the truth for ourselves. Don't listen to propaganda. Don't be affected by fabricated history. Our ancestors left us concepts, principles, values. This is why we send the children to school and get educated. You visit, you travel, Egypt, Ethiopia, Sudan. You see all the great history. A picture can speak more than 1,000 words. Pictorial metaphors. Our ancestors have left us symbols, principles, values for us to tune into. Don't get catch up and mix up with flesh. Remember that life is continual. Our ancestors never died. They just moved on to the next stage. And the next passion, they knew why they were sacrificing. They knew a day would come like this. When the generations will rise up. Remember who we are, where we come from. Don't let nobody else define you and tell you who you are. Have the ability to define yourself. Who are you? Where you come from? Are you a slave? Are you a dropout? Are you a deadbeat? Are you a female dog? How did we get there? Define yourself. The truth is what will set us free. Move into the African center. See how we come through kings and queens. Move into the African center. See our philosophy and how we build and how we taught language to the world. So I do say in the beautiful spirit of our ancestors, blessed are those who suffer, because we know many of us have gone through suffer. But our ancestors have shown us better it is to live and die for a noble cause than it is to live and die a slave. Hashem, Rastafari.
Ikanyim bungol ta ka ke selo di jongol ye min yalan ko ikumo jata no bage wali kalono le kela nyaaton ko be kelendi abe wolo kono no mo kallulu na do yada wole ka tara janka puli mo batu tili tang anin nani ni pare de ke samba gore Senegal ni bodo gore yena kadi samba America karu wotu mu America to mu new wolle to no Senegal le jedi bare komen elekseli la bugo kono ako fankasi balu duma ni jejibe ibe hadama mo fengol kululu tara jedi ni balu min be balu bi e balu mo fengol simbol la wenyi na itande ko mo fengol ya tajirinde ya so baage tubabo la karola and in fact in the Declaration of Human Rights ba yadi jila ko slavery is the height of human crime adama di mona nyanti tinya ba ni bola kulol kono je e landi nyoka na ko stadi nyole de wole kani ka dulu la nyoya force kono ni na dalon ko karide a harji tale tumando isinemu de yefay isinake nyawol yo mo roti bawo de ngene ka mo fi wala wala ya sabun kanajan ka janjura bar bi no man de fontane tuji lo musuno wala until in 1807 when Lord Mansfield in 1877 Lord Mansfield took a decision that there should be abolition of slave trade until in 1808 England declared slave trade as inhuman. In 1808 America declared slave trade as something which is dangerous, and they had to replace it with legitimate trade. So we were waiting for the arrival of Lamy to give us a spectrum about the whole of the island. But it was called an Andrew Island because Andrew, who was a Portuguese, died. Island on into form like James Island. James wo mutubabol angale la toleti. But Portuguese so lel benun jang and Portuguese so la bantanun jang ya island on into la ka fay Andrew. Kada animin na de jang pour akana nyina dulala woto mo Prince Henry Portugal la mansale yaki pour katama ka Africa la bankol lo. Amonyo nata banjang anata kato aka bali jang dena ya bali jang anata sey bari ayla no nyim bennu janne banku ma malem dorom je ya sora bari nyim bildi non nyimbe jantu ba bol lewul ke jang bilinga sida Prince Henry nata nyininka ikafu nyomale ini min bora jang aka Andrew de afata place lo ayla no nyim wa ayla no nyinde abe jufurele dum wo be nyomel nyomi dum ben non bangle Gambia de West Africa do Africa abanta wala to na baade je na jitu la kede bilim français li nada bilim portugais lu keda pour ka janka ni kamal ni jomal muda kana ki ke jang o ko la len to français li nati to lu no français fana ne tuba bolu na sara lu nada kela janna bilim na sara li nati no na sara lu nada jan to falim ka ke James Island ka ta Andrew portugais nu toleti bari James o mutuba bolu toleti inata wodo to tempen James Island for B. For in 2011, 6th of February or January, Yahya Jamina Jam Falling Kare Kunta Kinte. But I make a Kunta Kinte Gamara Tamil. Don't Jamal Tamil, by Amunta Doro, who ya the Mola to a farmer and Kunta Kinte Morianko, another two from the Falling among Song Island, another pool to Minianko, Mafu Momaki Joya on Banamansia, and also Masina Poker in Andro, the Dumuna. So I don't know. Science of independence.
According to history, one would be here for a period of little less than 14 days waiting for the arrival of the sea boats and take them to finally Gore Island and later move to the Banjul, America, where they would serve as a slave their plantation. Get in, this is Dungeon, this is where the slave will be kept here for nothing less than a period of 14 days, and they will be waiting for the arrival of the slave. Many of the slaves that were kept here are regarded as people that were very disturbance to their masters, and they are people who never condone whatever comes from them. So this is the ventilation where the food and the air will be allowed to pass here, and many of them would die as a result of the heat. They will be suffocated. Some who survive out of that would have suffered from eyesightness because of the environment of the place. And better for having an understanding of that, that would not even make them not to be tortured, because you know that here is very inhuman for one to be kept here for a period of 14 days. And I have read a history book which says that the ozons in the lands today, on its beneath there are bones of human. And it says that even the big fishes in the Atlantic oceans eat from the flesh of the human. This shows to you that the horror, the terrific nature that the human of Africa had undergone, especially the people living around Yomi here. And outside there is where some of these slaves would be brutalized, tortured, who refuse to succumb to some of the authorities given to them. We are seeing the torture chamber. Most of them would be hanged to death, so would be beaten to death, depending on the magnitude of the crime that you have done. And there you are seeing is the tower. This tower was used by them to detect any criminals coming or any danger coming along their way. Tower there, they will be able to see all the four corners. Any ship that is coming, they will detect it. Any attack coming towards them, they will detect it. And they will send a warning bullet to you to know your mission. And after that, they will do what is the courtroom. That was the abolition of the slave trade. They were using this as a courtroom to also give a verdict on anyone who is being captured in dealing of the slave. And these other remaining houses are distributed so they are using the island as well also for their purposes and work. So far, some of the parts of the island are not advised by anyone to go there because of the nature of the island right now. It's not advised for one to go there. Yeah.
So, what do you know about the canal?
The canal that is outside, we can go there.
One over there.
Yeah. Okay, let's go. We can.
It was not until 1807 when the British decided to abolish the slave trade. This made it illegal or prohibited for all British citizens or all under those under the British colonial administration or British Empire to desist from the trade. So basically the slave trade was illegal. However, the practice continued because the trade was very, very profitable. Both the natives, the rulers, and the citizens of the British Empire benefited. So it was very difficult for them to stop. So basically they had to adopt certain measures or strategies to try and abolish the slave trade altogether. So we had the British Naval Squadron, we had the Mixed Commission in Sierra Leone, and a lot more. Even some of these chiefs were forced into signing treaties so as for them to desist from involving themselves in the trade. And subsequently there was this introduction of the legitimate trade so as for them to cease or stop the trade in humans and then be involved in the selling of what goods and what services. So this was when the significance or the importance of James Island started to vanish. So subsequently they realized that as a result of the various attacks that went on for several decades, James Island was not strategically located like Banjul. So Alexander Grant was told to go and look for a better place, and subsequently the final agreement was that Batos or Banjul was more strategically located for the fight against the slave trade, and subsequently that led to the purchase of Banjul, which was very strategically located, which was able to serve as an effective area or center or location for the effective policing of the River Gambia. So all incoming and outgoing ships or vessels into the Gambia will have to pass through the estuary, that is the mouth of the River Gambia. So basically, the British went on to abolish or abandon James Island. So in 1816, we had the founding of Batos, and subsequently in 1827, we had the erection of Fort Blair. So both these areas complemented each other towards the abolition of the slave trade. Let's come back to the significance of James Island. If we are going out, we use this. These are the kind of, yeah, this is the tower. It had an antenna, but unfortunately, it has been dilapidated. It's been here for many years. That is where we will climb on top and see east, west, north, south. And this canoe, if the enemies are coming from the east or west, the canoe would be used to send a warning bullet to them. That is the purpose of it. So the pointing at San Domingo is what they use to threaten the people or the occupants of San Domingo. But we know that the power of this canoe, human cannot resist to that. It's more than what human can resist. Yeah. But of course, that was the level of the technology they had. But because of we are very advanced in technology, I think even Geneva Convention and Law of Protocol will not accept anyone to use these in fighting. Yeah.
So there are
Yep.
so I have a question for you.
All right.
Looking at the significance of this island
Yeah.
over the centuries
Mm-hmm.
and now recognized by UNESCO,
Yeah.
I have not seen much done to preserve this island.
And that is why the Kunta Kinteh Foundation come to play a role here. We have come to promote the heritage and to revive our history. Because in fact, the saddest part of it is that there are people with the belief that the story of Kunta Kinteh is based on nothing but fiction. But the evidence has produced that this island. But if this island is not maintained, our generations to come would not see anything like an island. And I think the government has a role, and any philanthropists who love the country, because the history is part of human development, to come here and to preserve this island. Because looking at the map of the island out there, you will know that this is not the space of the island, but it's been consumed by erosion in every tick of time. So something has to be done to make sure that they safeguard this heritage. Otherwise, time to come, it will vanish.
That's very cool. What word do you have for the National Center for Arts and Culture?
Yeah, even the Kunta Kinteh Foundation signed a memorandum of understanding with them precisely months ago, just to have an idea and to have a joint administration with them to ensure that we revive and we maintain our cultural heritage. And you could see some stones, some of these stones, of course, the former regime Yahya Jammeh, his regime dedicated some of the responsibility to national arts and culture to spread these stones here to ensure that it doesn't come in contact with water so very easily. Yeah.
But looking at all this and the contribution and development that has taken over here,
Yeah.
for some time, or that has taken place
Mhm.
over some time, comparing the two regimes,
Yeah.
about the preservation of our history and our historical sites
Yeah.
than the current president.
I am not a politic, but your point is right. Because since the change of the government occurred, Gambia and Jeffrey has never observed the conduction of festival. So that has come to validate your point that you are trying to elucidate here. So that is why the native of this land and the CEO Lamin Jata said we have to revive our culture to ensure that the root does not die, and that is why annually we would come here and to celebrate. But our presence at the island here is not an indication of happiness at all, but an indication of our sorrow and to have a reflection of the horrors that we encounter during those days of barbaric and inhuman treatment that were meted out on our African people.
Thank you, sir, for the response. This will be my last question.
Yeah.
After centuries of horror,
Yeah.
traumatization, and inhuman treatment meted on our ancestors,
Yeah.
precisely the land of Kunta Kinte, do you think we should seek for reparation for all that is invested to us?
Of course, I think we definitely need to do that, because this is the worst thing that had ever happened. After the Second World War, there was
preparation for the Germans who suffered at the hands of Nazi system during the regime of Adolf Hitler. Why not African people? And in fact, they came here, use our people, and African developed America today and Europe. They were used to fight for the independence of America in 1775, and today the Africans would go to Europe and they would be deported back home. I think that should have even be something that needs to be considered. I don't want to bend into certain things, but definitely that has to be done. Africans suffer a lot at the hands of the white people.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.